same stuff, different channel name. Hello, my name is Allie. I moved to Belgium when I was 21 to marry my now husband. I'm now a student in philosophy and I've lived here ever since. I've also read 103 books in the year of 2021. So I will not be participating in the end of year reading survey. Not so fast. We have to talk about this week's sponsor, Book of the Month. If you would like to diversify your bookshelf with funky fresh reads, then Book of the Month is the subscription service for you. You already know Book of the Month is a super popular and fast growing online book service for readers just like me. And just like you, hopefully, if you're watching this video. What Book of the Month does is promotes new and emerging authors to help readers find books that they are bound to love. Their team works night and day, sifting through hundreds of books to give us a monthly selection of new and early release titles. So this means you could spend more time falling into fun stories and less time researching what to read next. I'm in love with how varied the genres are each and every month, so you can always find something that piques your interest or dip your toes into new and uncharted territory. My favorite part of Book of the Month is that it is risk-free, meaning you can push pause on your subscription for any reason whatsoever, no questions asked, without being penalized. As long as you have a US-based shipping address, you can get your first hardcover new release fiction for $9.99 using the code AllieV. The code is still the same. The code hasn't changed. They also have a vast selection of books that you can add on to your box each and every month. And if it's your first month being a member of Book of the Month, you can pick any book that you find on their website for that discounted price. The only book to ever make me cry is on there, as well as The Maid by Nita Prose. The inside of the cover says, "A dead body is one mess she can't clean up on her own." Dun, dun, dun. Enough dilly-dallying. Let's dive into the 5 exclusive selections for the month of January, starting with Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, One Island, 6 Visitors, and Countless Secrets. This thriller pick of the month is jam-packed with island gothic sensibility and sexy suspense. Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho. This witty and warm book follows the lives of 2 young Taiwanese American women who have been best friends since 2nd grade as they navigate life together across 2 decades. Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. The first openly non-binary contestant on America's favorite cooking show falls for their clumsy competitor in this delicious romantic comedy debut. The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis, a tantalizing novel about secrets, betrayal, and murder that takes place in the early 1900s right after the Spanish flu. And last but not least, Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. In this moving debut novel, 2 estranged siblings must set aside their differences to deal with their mother's death and her hidden past. Also, just look at this cover. So please, hypothetically speaking, let me know which book you would pick, or make your dreams become a reality, and click the link in the description box below to get your first book from Book of the Month for $9.99. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. I just gave my chin a paper cut. Let's continue on with the reading review. I collected a bunch of questions from a bunch of reading surveys over the years and compiled my own list because I want to avoid any question that includes the word favorites. Because in the next video, we will be going over all of my favorite books of 2021. Spoiler alert, this is my favorite shelf. Close your eyes. So all books mentioned in this video is an honorable mention. I'll include all the questions down below, don't worry. Question number 1. How many books did you read? We've already discussed this. 103. Did you meet your goal? Yes, I did. I was shooting for 50 books and read 103. Most read genre. According to Storygraph, my most read genre is fantasy. I don't think that's true. I have read a few fantasies thanks to tutoring and reading other people's favorite books. But if I were to speak for myself, I mostly read contemporary fiction and a pretty hefty amount of autobiographies. Who knows the truth? Not me. What is the longest and the shortest book you read? The longest book I read was definitely rereading A Little Life. She's over 800 pages. Do I even need to explain this one anymore? She's been deemed a red flag book since making my reading vlog about 1.5 years ago. Some people have come forward telling me that the author had not worked with anybody with disabilities or trauma, and then also in a few interviews she said specifically that she wrote it just to make people sad, which I think that's a fair gripe. I think everyone's gripes with this book are extremely fair, except for, oh my god, so much bad stuff happens to Jude. He must be like the most unlucky person ever. I don't want to hear it. You can dislike this book for the trigger warnings, you can dislike this book for the author, you can dislike this book for any reason but that, because dude, we've already got into it. Trauma begets trauma, and trauma makes you mentally ill, which makes you susceptible for more abuse. Hey, what kind of world do you live in? Invite me. It sounds nice. It sure sounds nice. And then the shortest book I read was this little graphic novel, Camouflage, The Hidden Lives of Autistic Women. By no means did I expect a full fleshed out understanding of autism in women in a book of this size. But what I was hoping for was a little more modern language and maybe a better use of the minimal space that this book did have. But it had some cute graphics. It's a fine starter, an appetizer if you will. I don't know. Up next we have a book that lived up to the hype. Of course, every book that made it to my favorite list this year met the hype, but some that I could think of that didn't quite make the cut. One of them is In the Dream House, a memoir by Carmen Maria Machado. It's a sapphic nonfiction that shows that abuse can take place in any and all relationships, and she pairs her personal experiences perfectly with the many folklores and tales that were told throughout our lives and throughout history that, I don't know how to put it, enable abuse or normalize abuse or morph our perceptions into disregarding abuse. She was powerful. Definitely lived up to the hype. Oh boy. A book that didn't live up to the hype. I'm gonna name 3. 1 3-star, 1 2-star, 1 1-star. The first one that comes to mind is The Midnight Midnight Library by Matt Haig. People shouting from the high heavens that it's life-changing, screaming from the mountaintops that it's revolutionary. To me, it was just okay. The Librarian had some quotes that were nice and thoughtful, but overall, I don't think it really said anything new, nor do I think it was told in a very compelling way. To me, it was fine. It was good, but I really didn't understand the hype surrounding this one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of them. I'm sorry. It's just gonna get worse because the other two are in my unhaul box. I'm donating them to the library because I think other people will appreciate them more, and I really didn't like them. I'm sorry. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo got 2 stars for me. However, I think it was more of a personal gripe. I don't like reading about people with a lot of money. I don't like reading rags to riches to fame stories. And also I'm struggling with the romance genre. It wasn't for me. I understand why people like it. The hype that it has, but I get why people like it. And so I'm gonna donate her to my local library so then someone else can give her the love she deserves. And finally, one of the most hyped books I've seen across my lifetime, but landed as not only a 1 star, but my least favorite book of this year, Misery by Stephen King. In a nutshell, I just thought this was really boring. Painfully boring. To me. I really don't like books within a book, especially if they're this painfully boring. It was just too much. I am someone that subscribes to the notion strongly that just because something paved the way in the past doesn't inherently make it relevant today. She didn't age well, okay? I'm sorry. Are you still there? Did anyone stay after that? The next question is, book that felt like the biggest accomplishment. And it is definitely this thick-ass philosophy textbook that I read in February before applying to university. The Dust Jacket is gorgeous. At first read, I was really irritated at how in favor the author was of religious sentiments and how critical he was of any other kind of philosophy. I really was looking for an objective, emotions-cut philosophical history. But after enrolling in my first history of philosophy course, this book has been a lifesaver. So I did do the Stan is Wrong dance. I changed my review online. Thank you, Stephen Evans, for saving my tail this semester. Up next, we have favorite character. Again, I have to say it again, none of these are my favorite books. Next week you'll hear nothing but my high praises for all of my favorite characters this year. But some honorable mentions include Eli and August and their brotherhood in Boy Swallow's universe. This book was so much more captivating and hilarious than I expected it to be. It was such a page turner. I think it deserves a lot more hype. This book was good. I stand by my mid-year book tag that Rin in Poppy War is such a good character. I was so obsessed with her I can do anything as long as I put my mind to it attitude, and it was very inspiring despite the fact that she is a fictional character. I also loved Annie and Catherine Lacey's Pew. She was so cute and reminded me of myself when I was little. I loved how brutally honest she was. I loved hearing her thoughts. Up next, least favorite character, Paul Sheldon in Misery. One of the biggest reasons why I couldn't get into the book. Also, whoever whispered outlaw territory after sticking their finger into someone's royal rectum. We're all willing to discuss the trauma of a little life. I'm not even gonna go in and find the character's name. I don't need to subject myself to that again. Next question, most shocking moment. The best written book you've read this year. Again, not picking from my favorites, but Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford was written so beautifully. There's a time in Ashley's life where she spends time away from her mother and lives with her grandmother for a little bit, and she doesn't want to go back to her mom, and so her grandma takes her out in the backyard with the shovel and a burlap sack, digs a hole, and finds a bunch of snakes all entangled with each other. Outlaw territory. So the grandmother lights the burlap sack on fire and throws it into the hole with all the snakes. The snakes did not slither away or thrash around as they burned. They held each other tighter. Even as the scales melted from their bodies, their inclination was to squeeze closer to the other snakes wrapped around them. Their green legs blackened and bubbled, causing the flesh that simmered underneath each individual metallic hood to ooze. They did not panic. They did not run. I started to cry. You will have to go back. We'll both go back home. Your mama misses you. My grandmother reached over and grabbed my hand. Both of us still staring into the hole. These things catch fire without letting each other go. We don't give up on our people. We don't stop loving them. She looked into my face, her eyes watering at the bottoms. Not even when we're burning alive. I mean, ooh, so good and so short. Give her a read. I'm making an exception for the next question, and that is book that you pushed the most people to read in 2021. And of course, that one sits in my favorite shelf. So many people reached out to me letting me know that they read Lonely Castle in the Mirror thanks to my videos and that they loved it, and I'm just so happy because I think this book is so good, and I'm just so excited that so many people are reading it. Never stop tagging me online about this. I'm so hyped about this book. Keep loving it. Next, favorite book cover of the year.
I will remember.
The next question is, what book made you cry the most? Again, we have to make a special exception because
Will you remember me?
Crying in H Mart is the only book to not only make tears fall out of my eyes, but it made me ugly sob multiple times. Moment of silence. Thank you, Michelle Zauner. What book made you laugh the most? Honestly, the ending of They Never Learn by Lane Fargo was such a twist that I had to scream laugh just to release all of the emotions. This is a book about a professor on a college campus that murders rapists. So it's like the film Promising Young Woman had a baby with the show Dexter, and it is so good, and it really got my blood flowing. What is the best nonfiction you read this year? Aside from The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green and Crying in Each Part by Michelle Zauner, we have Educated by Tara Westover. This is Tara's story of growing up in a Mormon family that didn't let her go to public school and the many hoops she jumps through to get said education. Very inspiring, very well written, punches you in the gut. I'm only recommending this if you are open to self-help at the moment. I understand you need to be in a pretty specific place mentally to be open to the self-help genre. I get it. But Atomic Habits by James Clear has a very scientific approach to implementing better habits into your daily life. I thought it was really well done. I'm also going to recommend Tell Me Everything You Don't Remember, The Stroke That Changed My Life. When Christine was in her mid-early 20s, she got a migraine that ended up being a stroke, and her whole life gets reset, essentially. And I don't hear anyone talking about this one, and I think it's pretty good. And last but not least, the favorite book that you reread this year. This is on my favorite shelf, but won't be in the upcoming video because she's a reread from many moons ago. We read Coraline by Neil Gaiman together, and it was such a nostalgic and lovely introduction to the holiday season, that being Halloween. Coraline is a dark, mystical, middle grade story about a little girl who finds a carbon copy of her life through a small door in the wall. Except the mother in said world wants to sew buttons to replace her eye. It's a great spooky little reminder to not get caught up in the notion that the grass is greener on the other side. We're reading another Neil Gaiman together this month. The January Pocket Pages Book Club book is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. If you'd like to join us, please head on over to patreon.com/AllisonPages. Everything's the same, the handle just changed. We discussed via text chat on Discord in the last week of the month, so you don't have to be available for any specific live stream to participate. Thanks to Patreon, YouTube is my student job. I don't make any money from AdSense. It's specifically through that website that we're still alive and well. So thank you so much for such a wonderful year on there. I hope you're all having a wonderful 2022 so far. This has been my end of the year reading survey. Tune in next week to see which books were my favorite in the year of 2021. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for being nice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!